On May 28, 2015, Nintendo launched their new IP that would make a big splash, being Splatoon. Now 10 years later, it's kind of hard to believe how far the series has come since its debut on the Wii U. When I was a kid, I played the heck out of the first game. From turf wars and ranked battles to the unforgettable Splatfest, Splatoon quickly became my favorite title on the Wii U, and it still holds a special place in my heart today. Although the Wii U and 3DS servers were officially shut down last year, and we can no longer play Splatoon 1 online, officially, the memories are still here. So, to mark a full decade of ink, I want to look back and celebrate the original Splatoon, the game that started it all. Let's start with the heart of Splatoon, being turf war. If you've played Splatoon 1 or in general a Splatoon game, you know the drill. The objective is to cover the most ground with your team's ink in 3 minutes and win against the other team. That's it, and that's what made it so fun. It wasn't really that hard and all about getting the most plats or being some kind of pro. What mattered was how much ground you've covered. You could play defensively, sneak around the edges, or hold down one key area and still be a huge help to your team. Even if you weren't the strongest player, you could still make a difference just by focusing on inking smart. This was back in the day by far the mode I've played the most. Not only because for the first few hours this is the only you have access to, but I always found turf war really fun, and when I was kinda raging in some ranked modes, I would always come back to turf war because it's just a little less competitive. Now that we are talking about competitive, there were also ranked modes. And here's where things got serious. In Splatoon 1 you had 3 different modes: Splat Zones, Tower Control, and later on Rainmaker. Splat Zones was kind of like King of the Hill. You had to control a specific zone by covering in your team's ink and holding it for as long as possible. It got really intense when both teams kept trading control back and forth, but most of the time I really enjoyed this mode. Tower Control had a moving tower in the middle of the map. Once you climbed on it, it would move towards the enemy's base. But of course, everyone was trying to knock you off the tower, so it wasn't really that simple to win. In Tower Control, matches would get really chaotic, especially when it went into overtime. But that's what I really liked about this mode, that it was just so chaotic, and one good push and you were winning against the other team. And then there was Rainmaker, by far still my favorite ranked mode till this day. It was like carrying a super powerful weapon across the map, trying to bring it to the enemy's base. The Rainmaker shoots huge ink blasts, and carrying it feels a little risky, but also a little exciting. In this mode, you really need good teamwork to win. Rank battles were way more competitive than turf war. I remember grinding up the ranks trying to reach A+ or even S rank. It could be frustrating at some times, especially when teammates disconnected, but getting a win in rank just felt so good. And I find out that these modes are sometimes more fun than turf war, only if I'm winning of course. The only ranked mode that is not in this game is Clan Blitz, and maybe for the better so. Besides all these multiplayer modes, there was also a single player campaign called Hero Mode. I can vividly remember that I almost finished this when I was younger, but if I remember correctly, I never really got the motivation to finish it, because I just liked the multiplayer aspect a lot more. You play as Agent 3, recruited by Captain Cuttlefish, who sent you on a mission to stop the Octarians, the octopus enemies that stole the great sapfish which powers Inkopolis. The levels were simple at first, but as you get deeper into the missions, the levels started to feel more creative. Some were like puzzles, where you had to think about how to move forward using ink, and others were fast-paced and full of enemies trying to splat you. What made it stand out was how it felt like actual training for multiplayer. You were still shooting ink, using the same movement, learning to jump, swim, dodge, and even aim better. The game never told you that directly, but playing Hero Mode made you better without even realizing it. But what really made Hero Mode stick with me was the world building. Even though the game was super colorful and silly on the surface, there were these little hints that things were deeper than they looked. Like you find out the game takes place way in the future, after humans are gone. The squids and octopuses evolved and now they've taken over. You could find these scrolls hidden in each level that gave you little pieces of lore. Some of them were actually kind of sad or mysterious. So yeah, even if most people came to Splatoon for turf war or Splatfest, Hero Mode had a lot going for it. It was fun, it had charm, and it gave the game some real personality and story. I really need to play this campaign, but this time till the very end. But for what I can remember, it was a nice single player campaign to begin with. Not an Octo expansion or the single player campaign from Splatoon 3 worthy, but Hero Mode definitely deserves some attention. Now let's talk about maybe my favorite aspect of the entire Splatoon franchise, being Splatfest. Splatfests were special events that happened every so often. You had to choose a side like cats vs dogs, art vs science, but sometimes it was also a somewhat weirder subject like SpongeBob vs freaking Patrick. Then you played a bunch of turf war matches to help your team win. It was simple but so much fun, where you picked your side side, your Inkling would get a special t-shirt with your team's logo on it. The whole plaza where players met would change. There were neon lights, loud music, and everyone's Inkling was dancing. It really felt like a big party, like something special was going on. I always really looked forward to Splatfest because lots of people were playing at the same time, and you could feel the excitement online. Even if my team lost, it was still fun to play and see what the other team was doing. Except for the last Splatfest, Kelly versus Marie. And although I really liked them both, I really wanted Kelly to win, but sadly Kelly lost by 20 points, and I can remember that I was quite mad. Even now when I think about Splatoon 1, Splatfests are what I remember the most. They were more than just matches. They brought the whole community together and made playing feel special. Also, the matches with the special music from the Squid Sisters made these matches so much more memorable. Another thing I really liked about Splatoon 1 was all the weapons and gear you could use. There were a ton of different weapons to try, like shooters, rollers, and chargers. Each type played differently, so everyone could find something that fit their style. Some people liked fast weapons, while others liked ones with range. You didn't have to be the best at aiming or super aggressive. You could still be helpful if you found a weapon that worked for you. What made it even better was that every weapon came with its own sub-weapon and special. Some let you throw bombs, while others had things like Inksuka or Bubbler. Even if two people were using the same main weapon, their playstyle could feel really different depending on the sub and special. It gave you a lot of ways to play and figure out what felt good for you. Then there was all the gear, shirts, hats and shoes. You could unlock tons of different pieces, and each one had abilities that helped you in matches. Stuff like swimming faster, recovering ink quicker, or staying hidden while moving through ink. Some people like to dress just for looks, but a lot of us tried to build gear with the right abilities. I can say that I was the first one, because I didn't know about this till Splatoon 2. What a dumbass. If you didn't really like the abilities on your gear, you could re-roll or level them up to try and get what you wanted. And the best part, everyone had their own look. Every Inkling looks unique. Whether you were serious about your abilities or just wanted to look cool, it made your Inkling feel like your own Inkling. There was just so much different gear, and I really liked that you could customize so much already in the first game. Another thing that made Splatoon 1 really fun was the stages. The maps in this game were small, but they were designed in a way that made every match feel different. After playing for a while, you'd start to remember where all the key spots were, like where people would hide, where most of the action happened, and which paths were best for sneaking around. Some of the maps are still stuck in my head to this day. R1 Mall had those long hallways and the race middle section, which made for some crazy fights. Black Belly Skate Park had all these ramps and slopes where you could zoom around and surprise people. Salt Spray Rig was one of the most unique maps, with two different sides and a middle area that could turn the whole game around. A Walleye Warehouse was small but always intense. You had to fight hard just to keep control of the middle. What I liked was that each stage had its own style. Some were based on places like malls, warehouses or skate parks. It gave the game this cool mix of real life stuff with Splatoon's cartoony world. The music and background sounds in each map also made them feel alive. Stages also play differently depending on the mode. A map could feel totally different in Turf War compared to Tower Control, Splat Zones or Raymaker. You had to change how you played based on the objective. This while even though the layout stayed the same for the most maps. Back then there weren't as many maps as there are now in the newer games, and only 2 were available at a time on rotation. That used to annoy some people, but honestly for the first few rotations I kind of liked it. Since we kept playing the same maps over and over, I really had time to learn a specific way to surprise the opponent. Looking back, the stages in Splatoon 1 might not have been as flashy as in later games, but they were solid in my opinion. And some maps I actually liked more in Splatoon 1 than in later games. Mahi Resort. So yeah, that's basically my look back at Splatoon 1, the game that started it all. Even though we can't play it online anymore, it still means a lot to me. From Turf Wars and Splatfest to Hero Mode and just messing around with all kinds of weapons, this game gave me so many good memories. It's kind of crazy that it's already been a whole decade since Inklings first splashed onto the scene, and while Splatoon 2 and 3 have taken things even further, there's still something special about the first game. Thanks for listening to me yap about a game I absolutely adore. If you played Splatoon 1 back in the day, I'd love to hear your memories too, what your favorite map was, or your go-to weapon. If you like this video, consider liking this video and subscribing to my channel, and hopefully till the next time. Happy 10 years to Splatoon and stay fresh.